Daniel Ashford was 50 years old, but his eyes belonged to someone much older, hollow, distant, carved out by grief. As CEO of Ashford Industries, he commanded boardrooms across 4 continents. Yet the empire he built felt like a mausoleum, cold and echoing with absence. 4 years had passed since his wife Rebecca died. Not peacefully, not prepared, sudden, violent, a car accident that shattered everything in a single moment. Daniel had been at a conference in Tokyo when he got the call. By the time he reached the hospital, she was already gone. What haunted him most wasn't just losing Rebecca. It was the memory of their last conversation, a fight about his constant travel, her tears, his dismissive words, "We'll talk when I'm back." But there was no back. There was only after. Their son, now 7-year-old Miles, had been in the car too. He survived with 2 shattered legs and nerve damage that doctors said might never fully heal. While Rebecca was buried, Miles learned to use crutches. While Daniel drowned himself in mergers and acquisitions, his son learned to navigate a world that had become impossibly heavy. The Ashford estate in Hampstead sprawled across 3 acres, 15 bedrooms, a library that rivaled small universities, gardens maintained by a staff of 8. Yet it felt smaller than a coffin. Daniel left before Miles woke and returned after he slept. On weekends, he brought work home, barricading himself in his study. He told himself it was necessary. The company needed him. The thousands of employees depended on him. But the truth he couldn't face was simpler. He didn't know how to look at his son without seeing Rebecca. Miles had her eyes, her smile, her laugh. Every glance was a reminder of what Daniel had lost and what he had failed to protect. Lena Kozlov was 31, though life had aged her in ways that didn't show on her face. She'd arrived in England 9 years ago from a small town outside Lviv, carrying a battered suitcase and a medical degree that meant nothing in her new country. In Ukraine, she'd been a 4th-year resident in pediatric rehabilitation. Then the money dried up. Her father's hospital bills from his stroke, her younger sister Anya's university tuition. Lena made a choice: abandon her dreams or abandon her family. There was never really a choice at all. She'd worked her way through London's shadows, cleaning offices at night, serving coffee at dawn, learning English from British podcasts and patient tutors at the community center. When the Ashford family hired her as a housekeeper 21 months ago, it felt like stability. It wasn't medicine, but it was steady work, decent pay, and it kept her family afloat back home. Lena had never met Mr. Ashford properly. She arrived at 6:30, left by 7, and in those 12.5 hours, she saw him perhaps 3 times, a blur in expensive suits, smelling of cologne and exhaustion, barely acknowledging her existence beyond a curt nod. But Miles she saw every day. The boy was painfully shy at first, watching her with those enormous gray eyes as she cleaned around him. The other staff, the nanny, the tutor, even the chef, performed their duties with professional detachment. But something in Miles's loneliness called to something in Lena's past. She remembered her younger brother Dmitri, born with cerebral palsy. From age 9 to 18, Lena had been his shadow, taking him to physiotherapy 3 times a week, learning every exercise, every stretch, every tiny victory. She'd watched him struggle, fall, cry, and then slowly, painfully triumph. Now Dmitri was 22, studying computer science at Kyiv Polytechnic, walking with only a slight limp. Miles reminded her of Dmitri at 8 years old. That same frustration burning behind determined eyes. That same hunger to be normal, to run, to play, to be free. One morning 6 months ago, Lena found Miles in the garden, trying desperately to climb the 3 stone steps to the fountain. He'd fallen twice, his crutches scattered on the grass, tears streaming down his face. "I hate these stupid legs," he'd whispered. "I hate everything." Lena should have called the nanny. That was protocol. Instead, she sat down beside him. "My brother used to say the same thing," she said quietly. "He had weak legs too, couldn't walk until he was 9. Miles looked up surprised. "Really? What happened to him?" "He learned, but not from giving up. He learned from falling down 7,000 times and getting up 7,001. "Did he ever run?" Lena smiled. "Last year he completed a 5K charity race. Slow, but he finished." Something shifted in Miles's face. Could I ever run?" "I don't know," Lena said honestly. "But I know you could be stronger than you are today, if you wanted to work at it." That conversation became the first of many. During her lunch break, while the house slept in its afternoon quiet, Lena began working with Miles. Simple exercises she remembered from Dimitri's therapy. Stretches, balance work, tiny incremental challenges. She never told Mr. Ashford. She never asked for extra pay. She did it because she couldn't walk past a child in pain and do nothing. It wasn't in her nature. It was a Tuesday in late October when Daniel's world tilted on its axis. His meeting in Frankfurt had been canceled at the last minute, a rare gift of time. Instead of staying at the office, he decided to return home early. It was barely 4 in the afternoon when his driver pulled up to the estate. The house was quiet. Daniel moved through the marble foyer, loosening his tie, when he heard something from the conservatory. Laughter. Miles's laughter, a sound so rare it stopped Daniel in his tracks. He moved toward it like a man in a dream. Through the glass doors, he saw them. Lena was kneeling on a yoga mat, and beside her, Miles stood without his crutches, wobbling but upright, his small hands gripping hers for balance. "Okay, 3 more seconds," Lena was saying in her accented English. "You can do this, Miles too. 1, perfect." Miles's face split into a grin of pure triumph. "I did 11 seconds. That's my record." "You're getting stronger every day. Tomorrow, we try for 15. "Will Dad ever see me do this?" The question came out small, uncertain. Daniel's chest tightened. Lena's voice softened. "Maybe one day. But you're not doing this for him. You're doing this for you. But I want him to be proud. He is proud. Sometimes adults just forget how to show it." Daniel stepped into the conservatory. Both of them froze. "Dad," Miles breathed, his eyes going wide. "You're home early." "I can see that." Daniel's voice came out rougher than intended. His gaze shifted to Lena, who had gone pale, still kneeling on the mat. "What exactly is going on here?" Lena stood quickly, her hands twisting together. "Mr. Ashford, I'm sorry. I should have asked permission. I was just teaching my son to walk without telling me. I didn't mean to overstep. Miles was struggling, and I have some experience with physical rehabilitation, and I thought, you thought you'd practice medicine without a license?" The words came out cold, prosecutorial. Lena flinched as if struck. "Dad, no!" Miles grabbed his crutches, hobbling forward. "Don't be mean to Lena. She's the only one who helps me." Daniel looked at his son, really looked at him, and saw something he hadn't seen in years. Fire, defiance, life. "Miles, go to your room. I need to speak with Miss Kozlov." "But Dad, now." The boy's face crumpled. He looked at Lena, who gave him a small, reassuring nod. Miles left, his crutches tapping an uneven rhythm across the floor. Silence settled heavy between them. Daniel turned to Lena. She stood straight, chin up, though he could see the fear in her eyes. Not fear of him, exactly. Fear of losing this job, of letting her family down, of all the precarious threads that held her life together. "How long has this been happening?" he asked, his voice quieter now. 8 months, sir." 8 months. He repeated it like a foreign phrase. "And in 8 months my son has made progress?" "Yes, significant progress. His balance has improved, his muscle strength, his confidence." "And you didn't think to inform me?" Lena's jaw tightened. "With respect, Mr. Ashford, when would I have told you? You leave before Miles wakes and return after he sleeps. You work weekends. You've spoken to me perhaps 6 times in 21 months. And never once about Miles. The truth of it hit Daniel like a physical blow. You had no right. You're absolutely correct. Her voice was steady now, resigned. I had no right. I'm just the housekeeper. But your son was suffering, and I had the knowledge to help him. So I did. If that's grounds for dismissal, then I accept it. Daniel stared at this woman, this stranger who had been in his home for nearly 2 years, who he'd never truly seen until this moment. She was small, maybe 5'4", with dark hair pulled back in a practical bun. There was nothing remarkable about her appearance, but her eyes, dark brown, clear, held something he recognized. The same determination Rebecca used to have. "Tell me about your experience," he said finally. "Your real experience." Lena hesitated, then began to speak. She told him about Dmitri, about her youth shadowing physiotherapists in Ukraine, about abandoning her medical residency to support her family. She spoke without self-pity, just facts. But Daniel heard the loss beneath every word, dreams deferred, sacrifices made, a parallel life she'd never get to live. When she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. "I need to see his medical files," Daniel said. "All of them. And I want to observe tomorrow's session." Lena blinked, surprised. "You're not firing me? Should I be? I violated boundaries. I acted without authorization. You helped my son." His voice cracked slightly. "Something I should have been doing all along." That night, Daniel couldn't sleep. He sat in his study, surrounded by Miles's medical records. Reports from orthopedic surgeons, neurologists, physical therapists. All the experts said the same thing. Miles's prognosis was poor. He'd likely need crutches indefinitely. Full mobility was unlikely. Yet today he'd watched his son stand unsupported for 11 seconds. Daniel thought about the last 4 years. The business had thrived. Revenue up 340%, expansion into 6 new markets, 3 successful acquisitions. By every metric that mattered to shareholders, he'd been extraordinarily successful. But his son had been learning to balance without him. His son had been crying, fighting and triumphing in an empty house, while Daniel reviewed quarterly earnings. At 2 a.m., Daniel finally left his study. He walked down the hall to Miles's room and opened the door quietly. Miles was asleep, his small face peaceful in the moonlight. His crutches leaned against the nightstand, purple, with superhero stickers Miles had applied himself. Daniel sat on the edge of the bed, careful not to wake him. When was the last time he'd done this? Just sat and watched his son sleep? "I'm sorry," he whispered to the sleeping child. "I'm so sorry I left you alone." The next morning, Daniel did something unprecedented. He cleared his entire schedule. When Lena arrived at 6:30, she found him in the kitchen, attempting to make breakfast. The kitchen was a disaster zone. Cracked eggs, spilled milk, smoke from burnt toast. "Mr. Ashford?" Lena stood in the doorway, utterly confused. "I'm trying to make pancakes," Daniel said, staring at the ruined batter. "Miles likes pancakes on Wednesdays." "It's Thursday." "Right, what does he like on Thursdays?" Lena set down her bag slowly. "French toast, with strawberries cut into stars." "Stars? He says it makes them taste better." Daniel looked at her, then at the smoking pan. "I don't know what my son likes for breakfast." "No," Lena said gently, "you don't." It wasn't said cruelly, just honestly. And somehow that made it worse. "Teach me," Daniel said suddenly. "To make French toast?" "Everything. Teach me everything I should know about my son." Over the next 3 weeks, Daniel's life transformed in ways that terrified and exhilarated him. He started small, breakfast with Miles before therapy. The first morning was awkward, neither of them knowing quite what to say. But Lena was there, a calm presence that somehow made the silence less heavy. By the 4th day, Miles started talking, hesitant at first, then in torrents. About his online classes, about the book he was reading, about the dreams he had where he could run. Daniel listened, really listened, and discovered his son was funny, clever, desperately lonely, and braver than anyone Daniel had ever met in a boardroom. The morning therapy sessions became sacred. Daniel watched Lena work with Miles, taking mental notes. She never pushed too hard, never let him quit too easily. She celebrated small victories and reframed failures as data. "When you fall, what did you learn?" she'd ask. "But I put too much weight on my left side," Miles would answer. "Good. So tomorrow, I adjust." It was the same approach Daniel used in business. Systematic, analytical, relentless, but wrapped in patience and care he'd forgotten existed. One morning, after Miles had successfully stood for 23 seconds, the boy threw his arms around Lena. "I love you, Lena," he said simply. Daniel felt something twist in his chest. Not jealousy. Exactly. More like grief for all the moments he'd missed, all the love he'd been too broken to give. That evening, after Miles was asleep, Daniel found Lena in the library organizing books. "Miss Kozlov, may I speak with you?" She turned, always slightly wary around him. "Of course. I've been thinking about your situation," Daniel began, choosing his words carefully. "Your medical background, your work with Miles. It seems like a waste for you to be working as a housekeeper." Lena's expression shuddered. "Mr. Ashford, I'm grateful for this job." "Let me finish." He held up a hand. "I'd like to offer you a different position. Miles's personal therapeutic companion. You'd work exclusively with him, no other household duties. I'll triple your current salary and sponsor your certification process to become a licensed physiotherapist in the UK." Lena stared at him. "Why would you do this?" "Because you've given my son something I couldn't, hope. And because you deserve to finish what you started, both with Miles and with your own career." She shook her head. "This is too much. I can't accept." "Why not?" "Because people like you don't help people like me without expecting something in return." The words hung between them, sharp and honest. Daniel stepped closer. "What do you think I want from you?" Lena met his gaze. "I don't know. That's what frightens me. I want Miles to keep improving. I want you to become the physiotherapist you were meant to be. That's all." "Just that?" "Just that." He paused. "Though I'll admit, there's something else." Her shoulders tensed. "I want to learn how to be the father I should have been. And I think you might be the only person who can teach me." Lena was quiet for a long moment. Then, slowly, she nodded. "Okay, but on one condition." "Name it." "You show up. Every session, every meal, every moment. No more hiding in your office. No more business trips unless absolutely necessary. If I'm going to help Miles, you need to be present." It was the kind of ultimatum no employee had ever dared give Daniel Ashford. He should have been angry. Instead, he felt relief. Deal. The arrangement worked beautifully. For 3 months, life at the Ashford estate found a rhythm it had never had before. Daniel restructured his entire schedule. Video conferences replaced some travel. He delegated more, learned to trust his executive team. For the first time in his career, he left the office by 5. Miles blossomed. His physical progress was remarkable. He could stand for nearly 2 minutes, walk short distances with only light support. But more than that, he laughed. He joked. He started to believe in his own future. And Daniel discovered he liked being a father. Loved it, actually. The simple joy of reading bedtime stories, helping with homework, hearing about Miles's day. How had he forgotten this existed? But the outside world was less accommodating. The first crack appeared when Daniel's mother, Margaret Ashford, made a surprise visit. Margaret was old money, aristocratic in bearing and temperament. At 78, she still maintained her position on 3 charity boards and had strong opinions about propriety, class, and the right way to do things. She arrived during a therapy session. Daniel was spotting Miles while Lena counted, and Miles was attempting to walk from the sofa to the window, roughly 15 feet without crutches. 12, 13, 14. Lena's voice was steady, encouraging. Miles's face was scrunched with concentration, his legs trembling. "You've got this, Miles," Daniel said softly. "3 more steps." 17, 18, 19. What on earth is going on here? Margaret's voice cut through the moment like a knife. Miles startled, lost his balance. Daniel caught him quickly. "Grandmother." Miles beamed despite nearly falling. "Did you see? I almost made it to the window." Margaret's gaze swept over the scene, her son in casual clothes on his knees, the housekeeper with a stopwatch, her grandson's flushed face. "Daniel, might I speak with you?" Privately. In the drawing room, Margaret wasted no time. "You've hired the maid as Miles's physical therapist?" "She's not a maid anymore, Mother, and yes. Is she qualified?" "She has extensive experience." "Is she licensed?" Daniel's jaw tightened. "Not yet, but she will be. I'm sponsoring her certification." Margaret's eyebrows rose. "How generous. Tell me, is she pretty?" "Excuse me?" "It's a simple question. Is this woman attractive?" "That's completely irrelevant." "Is it? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you've developed an unhealthy attachment to the help." "She's helping Miles walk, Mother. She's doing what dozens of expensive therapists couldn't accomplish." "And what exactly will you owe her when Miles finally does walk? Have you thought about that?" Daniel felt anger rising. "I don't owe her anything beyond fair payment for her work." "Really? Because everyone in your circle is talking. The great Daniel Ashford, replacing his dead wife with the Ukrainian housekeeper. It's unseemly." "Nobody is being replaced. This is about Miles's recovery." "Then why are you home every night at 5? Why have you turned down 3 major acquisitions? Why does your assistant tell me you're unavailable during therapy hours?" Margaret stepped closer. "I watched you in there, Daniel. The way you look at that girl. You're not just grateful, you're infatuated." "That's absurd." "Is it? You've been alone for 4 years. She's young, devoted to your son, present in your home every day. It would be strange if you didn't develop feelings, but acting on them would be catastrophic." "I'm not." Daniel stopped. Was he developing feelings? The thought hadn't consciously formed until his mother said it aloud. "Listen to me," Margaret said, her voice softening slightly. "I understand you're lonely, but there are appropriate ways to address that. This woman is an employee, an immigrant without status. If you pursue anything with her, you'll destroy both your reputations. People will assume you're taking advantage of her vulnerability. Or worse, that she's entrapped you. That's a disgusting way to think. It's the way the world thinks. You know this, Daniel. You've spent 25 years building Ashford Industries' reputation. Don't throw it away for a fantasy." After Margaret left, Daniel sat alone for a long time. Was his mother right? He thought about Lena, how easily she made him laugh now, how he looked forward to their morning conversations over coffee, how natural it felt when their hands accidentally touched, passing miles between them. Oh God, his mother was right. He was falling for Lena Kozlov. After Margaret's visit, Daniel began pulling away. Not drastically, he still attended therapy sessions, still had breakfast with Miles. But he was careful never to be alone with Lena. He kept conversations strictly professional. When she stayed late one evening to finish paperwork, he made sure to leave the room. Lena noticed immediately. How could she not? The warmth that had developed between them over 3 months vanished overnight. Mr. Ashford was back, polite, distant, untouchable. She told herself it didn't matter. This was always a professional arrangement. She was foolish to think it could be anything else. But Miles noticed too. "Why is Dad being weird again?" he asked one morning, after Daniel had excused himself immediately after breakfast. "He's not being weird," Lena said, helping Miles with his stretches. "Yes, he is. He won't look at you. Did you fight?" "No, sweetheart. Adults are just complicated sometimes." The truth was simpler and more painful. Daniel Ashford had remembered who he was, and who she was. She'd let herself forget the vast distance between them, lulled by 3 months of pretending they were just 2 people helping a child. But they weren't just 2 people. He was a billionaire. She was an immigrant with expired credentials and a mountain of debt. He moved in world of private jets and political connections. She sent money home and worried about visa renewals. Whatever foolish hope had been building in her chest, she needed to crush it now. 2 weeks into the new coldness, disaster struck from an unexpected direction. Lena returned home to her small flat in Brixton at 9 p.m., exhausted. She'd stayed late to work on the curriculum for Miles's next training phase. She was unlocking her door when her mobile rang. Her sister Anya, calling from Ukraine. Lena, Anya's voice was thick with tears. "It's Dad. He had another stroke. A bad one." The world tilted. "How bad?" "The doctors, they say we need to decide about surgery. It's expensive and risky. But without it, Anya couldn't finish." "How much?" £30,000. "The insurance won't cover it because of his previous condition." £30,000. Lena had been saving for her certification exams, for Anya's final year of university. She had roughly £8,000 total. Even with her new salary, even with Daniel's generous offer, $30,000 was impossible. "I'll figure something out," Lena promised. "Tell Dad I love him. Tell him I'm coming." After she hung up, Lena sat on the floor of her tiny flat and let herself cry, just for 5 minutes. Then she dried her eyes and started calculating. She could borrow from a loan agency. The interest would be brutal, but what choice did she have? She could ask for an advance on her salary. She could. Her phone rang again. Unknown number. "Miss Kozlov?" A smooth, cultured voice. "My name is Marcus Sullivan. I'm the CEO of Sullivan Medical Group. I received your contact information through mutual acquaintances." Lena's guard went up instantly. "How can I help you?" "Actually, I'm calling to help you. I've heard about the remarkable work you've done with young Miles Ashford. I have a proposition that might interest you." "I'm listening." "My nephew has cerebral palsy. He's 9 years old, and conventional therapy hasn't yielded the results we hoped for. I'm willing to offer you a position as his private therapist. The salary would be £250,000 annually, plus full benefits, and a £50,000 signing bonus." Lena stopped breathing. 250,000. The signing bonus alone could save her father. "Why me?" she managed to ask. "Because what you've accomplished with Miles Ashford in 10 months is extraordinary. I've seen the medical reports. His own doctors are amazed. I want that for my nephew." "And what would this position require?" "Full-time work, of course. You'd need to relocate to our estate in Surrey. Live-in arrangement, naturally, so you can work with Thomas throughout the day." "And Miles Ashford?" "You'd have to resign from the Ashford household. I understand he'd be losing an excellent therapist, but I'm sure they can afford to hire someone else. Your talent is wasted there, Miss Kozlov. You should be working with children who truly need you." After Sullivan hung up, Lena sat motionless, the numbers swirling in her head. £50,000, her father's life. £250,000, Anya's university paid for, debts cleared, finally enough to breathe. But Miles would be devastated. They were so close to a breakthrough. He was almost ready to walk independently. 3 more months, maybe 4. And Daniel, even though he'd grown cold, even though it could never be anything more than employer and employee, the thought of not seeing him every day felt like losing something precious she'd barely realized she'd found. But this wasn't about her feelings. This was about survival, about family. The next morning, Lena arrived at the Ashford estate with an envelope in her pocket. She made it through the therapy session, through breakfast, through Miles's excited chattering about a nature documentary he'd watched. All the while, the envelope burned against her ribs. When Daniel returned from a phone call, Lena asked quietly, "Mr. Ashford, may I speak with you, privately?" They went to his study. Daniel sat behind his massive desk, the barrier between them suddenly very visible. "What is it?" His tone was professional, distant. Lena pulled out the envelope, her hands shaking slightly. "I'm giving you my resignation. 2 weeks' notice." Daniel's face went blank. "You're quitting?" "Yes." Why? She'd prepared a lie, a story about family obligations, about needing to return to Ukraine. But when she opened her mouth, the truth came out instead. I've been offered another position, with the Sullivan Medical Group, to work with Marcus Sullivan's nephew. Understanding dawned in Daniel's eyes, followed by something that looked like hurt. I see. They've made you a better offer. It's not just about the money, isn't it? His voice hardened. How much is Sullivan paying you? That's not... How much, Lena? 250,000, plus a 50,000 pound signing bonus. Daniel's laugh was bitter. I see. And here I thought tripling your salary was generous. Clearly I underestimated your market value. You don't understand. No, I understand perfectly. You've been using Miles to build your reputation, and now you're cashing in. It's actually quite clever. The accusation hit like a slap. That's not fair. Fair? Daniel stood. You want to talk about fair? What about Miles? He loves you. He trusts you. Do you have any idea what it will do to him when you leave? No, you don't know. Because if you knew, if you actually cared about him instead of just your bank balance, you wouldn't be standing here with your resignation letter. Tears burned Lena's eyes. My father is dying. Daniel stopped. He had another stroke, Lena continued, her voice breaking. The surgery costs 30,000 pounds. Without it, he'll die. The signing bonus, it's not about greed, Mr. Ashford. It's about keeping my father alive. The anger drained from Daniel's face. Lena, I don't want to leave Miles. I love that boy like he's my own. But I can't let my father die to prove my loyalty to your family. They stood in silence. Daniel's mind was racing. 30,000 pounds, he finally said? Yes. And if you had that money, would you stay? Lena looked at him carefully. Are you offering to pay for my father's surgery? Would you stay if I did? I don't know. Maybe Sullivan is right. Maybe Miles deserves someone with official credentials. Someone who... That's not what I asked. Lena met his eyes. In them she saw something she'd been trying not to acknowledge for months. Something that terrified and thrilled her in equal measure. If money weren't an issue, Daniel said quietly, would you want to stay? Yes, her heart screamed. Because I've fallen in love with your son. Because I've fallen in love with the man you're becoming. Because the thought of leaving feels like tearing out my own heart. But she couldn't say any of that. So instead she said, Miles needs me. For at least a few more months, until he's fully independent. Daniel nodded slowly. Okay, here's what's going to happen. I'll wire 30,000 pounds to your account today. Consider it an interest-free loan, to be paid back whenever you can. You'll stay with Miles until his recovery is complete. Your professional opinion on when that is. After that, if you choose to take Sullivan's offer or any other offer, I won't stand in your way. Mr. Ashford, I can't accept. It's not charity, Lena. It's an investment. Miles has made more progress with you in 10 months than in 3 years of conventional therapy. From a purely business standpoint, keeping you here makes sense. And from a non-business standpoint, the question hung between them, dangerous and electric. From a non-business standpoint, Daniel said slowly, I think my son would be heartbroken if you left. And I think I would be too. After that conversation, everything changed and nothing changed. The money was transferred. Lena called her sister in tears. The surgery was scheduled. Her father would live. The relief was overwhelming. But at the estate, the distance between Lena and Daniel became even more pronounced. He'd revealed too much, pulled back too quickly. She'd almost let herself hope, then remembered all the reasons hope was dangerous. Miles, oblivious to the adult complications, continued to improve. By early spring, nearly 14 months after Lena had started working with him, he could walk unsupported for short distances. Still unsteady, still requiring crutches for anything more than 50 feet, but walking. It was Daniel's mother who forced everything to a head. Margaret returned in late March, this time with company, a widow named Beatrice Chamberlain. Old money, impeccable pedigree, appropriately aged for Daniel at 46. The introduction was painfully obvious. Over dinner, Margaret made her intentions clear. Beatrice's late husband was in pharmaceuticals, Margaret told Daniel. She sits on the boards of several charities, including the Children's Hospital. I thought you two might have much in common. Beatrice was polished, poised, and clearly interested. She laughed at Daniel's awkward attempts at humor, asked intelligent questions about his business, and by all accounts, was exactly the sort of woman a man in Daniel's position should pursue. Lena watched them from the kitchen, pretending to organize meal plans, while her heart slowly broke. This was reality. This was the world Daniel actually inhabited, one where matches were made between equals, where love was secondary to suitability. After the guests left, Lena found Daniel on the terrace, staring out at the dark garden. She seemed nice, Lena said quietly. Daniel didn't turn. My mother certainly thinks so. She's right for you. Your world, your background. Is that what you think? It's what I know. Now Daniel did turn, and the look in his eyes made her breath catch. And what about what I want? It doesn't matter what you want. Not really. There are people depending on you, your company, your employees, your son. You can't just what? Say it, part of her screamed. Say what we've both been dancing around for months. But she couldn't. So instead, she said, Miles is almost ready. Another month, maybe 6 weeks, and he won't need me anymore. Is that what you think? That when he can walk, you'll become expendable? I think when he can walk, my job will be done. And what if I offered you another job? Daniel stepped closer. What if I asked you to stay not as Miles's therapist, but as what? Her voice came out as a whisper. Daniel reached out, his hand hovering near her face but not quite touching, as someone I can't imagine my life without anymore. Mr. Ashford. Daniel. My name is Daniel, and I'm asking you, I'm begging you, to stop calling me Mr. Ashford like there's still some professional.